Parker, you're late, man. Always late, eh? Sorry, Mr. Aziz, there was a disturbance. Disturbance. Always a disturbance with you. Come on. 21 minutes ago, income order. 8 extra large deep dish pizzas. In 29 minutes guarantee, I will not only receive no money from these pizzas, but I will lose the customer forever. You have to make it in time. Peter, you are a nice guy, but you're not dependable. This is your last chance. You got to go to 1.5 blocks in 7.5 minutes, or your ass is fired. What? Go! Go! Pizza time. You're late. I'm not paying for those. MJ. Oh. You. Listen, I'm sorry. There was a disturbance. I don't know you. I can't keep you. It's too painful. Look. My best friend, who cares so much about me, can't even make an 8 o'clock curtain. How is it your aunt can come, Harry can come, John can come, and my dad and my mom, they came, but you, no. You're having a whale of a time down there. Day by day, he gazed upon her. Day by day, he sighed with passion. Day by day.
You serious?
Don't start. Oh no, shut the machine off! Stabilize, it's under control! I'm in charge here! It's my money! I'm in control! Rosie!
2,000 years later.
Anybody here take shop class?
Raindrops are falling on my head, and just like the guy whose feet are too big for his bed, nothing seems to fit. Those raindrops are falling on my... So I just did me some talking to the sun, and I...
Hello everybody and welcome to my review of Spider-Man 2, directed by Sam Raimi, released in 2004, starring Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, Alfred Molina, James Franco, and many more. So, Spider-Man 2, we've reached the middle way of Sam Raimi's trilogy. So, the basic plot of Spider-Man 2 is that it takes place about 2 years after the first one, and Peter Parker is stressed. He is having a midlife crisis. He is struggling to balance all the aspects of his life, being Spider-Man, running 2 jobs, going to Dr. Connors' classes, and, you know, trying to make time for his friends and his aunt as well. So he's pretty much got the weight of the world thundering upon him, and he just can't cope. He's not coping. He's not managing. And as a result, he starts to lose his powers, and he goes through various stages of, you know, psychological re-evaluation and of himself, and he decides that the only way to get around this problem is to basically give up Spider-Man, basically give it up, only to then find out that the city does actually need him, and, you know, he does make a return. He does need to sort of come back out of the ashes of his departure, he must muster up the courage, sort out his life, and come back. And yeah, it goes on from there. There's also some other things. Mary Jane has a new boyfriend, and he sort of wants to be with her, but he sort of can't because he doesn't want her to be hurt, but at the same time, he really does still love her. Harry is out for revenge. His father, he's still grieving over the death of his father from the first one, and he's not happy with Peter. He thinks Peter has robbed his father's love from him, and he wants to. He feels that Peter is being disloyal, and he wants to find Spider-Man and kill him. You also have Dr. Octopus, who wants to sustain fusion. He wants to redefine the fusion technology that he's developing with the help of a special element called tritium, which is provided by Oscorp, or Harry. And then that experiment doesn't go well. Later on, Harry makes a deal with Otto to, if he finds Spider-Man to bring him alive, he'll give him the tritium he needs to basically restart his machine, because the first time it fails and Otto's wife dies in the first explosion. And it's really a morality tale about sort of almost coming of age story. Peter's still growing up. He's still trying to sort things out in his life. He's trying to take on responsibilities and everything. And obviously it will lead to a big climactic fight where Peter has to stop the machine again and save Mary Jane. So yeah, there's a lot that goes on in this movie. Oh my god, Spider-Man 2. This is a masterpiece. I love this film. I mean, I would go that far. It is a masterpiece, and in my opinion, this is probably my favourite superhero film ever made. Yes, it's that good. I have a lot of love for this movie. I've always loved it, ever since I was younger. Some people have criticised it as being a little bit boring, that it doesn't have much going on, but I beg to disagree. I mean, there is a lot going on. There's even more going on than the first one. For me, the first one was really good for what it did. This takes it further, because the drama of the story is much more interesting. I think this is a perfect progression of the story from the first one. Peter Parker's not in a good place. You know, he's not this, angelic character. He's not a completely flawless hero. He's down on his luck in this movie. People are beating him dry. Every little thing is just crashing down on him. Like the party scene, especially when he can't even get a drink without it being empty. What does the guy have to do just to manage? He just can't manage his life, and I love that aspect of the story. And for that reason alone, this is Tobey Maguire's best performance as Spider-Man and Peter, because you feel the weight of stress that is crashing down on him, and obviously he has to sacrifice being Spider-Man temporarily, until he can sort his life out, which is really almost heartbreaking to see him reduced to that level where he has no other option but to sort of give up, really. And also, Aunt May is losing the house. The house is up for foreclosure, so she has to be relocated. So he's dealing with that as well. There's just so much that's being thrown at Peter here, and you really feel sorry for the guy, but because he tries his damnedest to do everything. He tries to be there for Mary Jane. He tries to smooth things over with Harry. He tries to help his aunt. He tries to be Spider-Man. He tries to sort his own life out with his jobs and his rent. He just can't do it, and I think it makes the drama so much more interesting. Oh my god, I mean, wow, I love this film. The script is fantastic. This is one of the best stories for a superhero movie ever, because it doesn't almost feel like a superhero movie at times. It feels it's a drama. It feels very dramatic, and there are some brilliant scenes here. As for the other characters, Mary Jane, she's a little bit better in this film. They've still written her a little bit. There are times when I'm like, bitch, please, just cut him some slack. She doesn't really cut him some slack until the end of the movie, when she realizes he's Spider-Man. Obviously, in this film, she finds out Peter is Spider-Man, and obviously that explains so much to her. But during the earlier stages of the movie, she's like expecting him to do everything for her, and not that. She's expecting him to like be there for her whenever he says he will, and not disappoint her. And she just and then she's sort of marrying J. Jonah Jameson's son, and then it gets all complicated. But Kirsten Dunst does a good job in the role in this one. I think she's actually better in this film than she is in the first. She's still good in the first. James Franco as Harry. He's great in this movie. He has obviously his character's taken a bit of a darker turn. He's out for revenge, and obviously this is a plot that continues in Spider-Man 3, which we'll get to next time. I like the scenes in this film. He's sort of there's tension between him and Peter. He knows that Peter is sort of not telling him something. Obviously, he's under the impression that Peter knows who Spider-Man is, which is obviously true because Peter is Spider-Man. But in the beginning scene, at his birthday, he's like, "If you knew who he was, would you tell me?" So he thinks, "Oh, you clearly know who Spider-Man is." But Harry he's still emotional about his father's death, and it's leaves things very tense. And other characters. Aunt May is good in this film. She's really good. She has a couple of really nice scenes. There's a scene with her and Peter at the beginning where she's still mourning for Uncle Ben's death, which is 2 years on as well. And also there's a lovely scene towards the second act of the movie, well, near the end of the second act of the movie, where she says, "Oh, there's a hero in all of us. We need a hero sometimes. Everybody loves a hero, and boys like Henry need the hero." And because I think what we take away from that is the impression that Aunt May obviously knows Peter is Spider-Man. I think after the bank scene, surely she would have said, "Well, Peter left, and then Spider-Man came in, so oh, yeah." I think she always kind of knew, to be honest. There's a shot in the first movie where he's practicing his webs in his room. She comes in, she's like, "What's going on in there?" And I think from that even as well, she would gather, oh, maybe Peter is Spider-Man. I think she's known for a while, but she just doesn't say anything about it for whatever reason. And I think that speech is sort of a really lovely moment, just a real kick drive for Peter to come back and return as Spider-Man. And the music is beautiful in that scene, and she's really she really sums it all up, And also the other scene with her, which is lovely, is when Peter basically tells the truth. He explains his part in the death of Uncle Ben in the previous film. He says, I never went to the library. I went into the wrestling match, and I tried to win money to buy a car to impress Mary Jane. And then obviously I pursued the carjacker, blah 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 blah. And it's really heartbreaking scene, and the shock on her face as well. And she just moves her hand away from his, and then she just goes up the stairs to sort of process what's going on. Oh my god, this film has some beautiful scenes. The emotion of this film is just captivating, and that's why I love it, because the drama, I just engage so much with it, and it's really interesting. It's a perfect continuation as well. The scene with Uncle Ben, the flashback sort of dream sequence, when Peter says, "No, I'm just Peter. I'm Spider-Man no more." And it's an interesting plot that they decided to do, because it could have gone either way. They could have been obviously criticised for a lack of Spider-Man, but in this case, I think it really works because of the story, because the character is so downtrodden by everything that's been thrown at him. The sense of relief when he lets go of that one thing that is sort of struggling to find its place in his life is obviously being Spider-Man. But obviously, slowly he's drawn back to it. And then it's really funny when it just cuts to "Raindrops keep falling on my head." I love that scene. It's just hilarious. It's cheesy, yes, but it's fun because you're like, oh, okay, he's happy now. He's sort of free spirit. It reflects Peter's mood. Say what you will about him strutting down the street in the next movie, but we'll get to that next time. Also, Dr. Otto Octavius as the villain, he's great. He's a very good villain. He's probably my favourite villain of the films that we've had so far. I've yet to see, obviously, Vulture in the new film, which I'm excited about. He's just because the the thing is with him, his character is brilliant because he's just a nice guy. He's a nice guy who was, after the death of his wife, who was deceived by the inhibitor chip that's broken. Obviously, the arms kind of took over his mind and sort of not. I don't know, say possessed him. That's sort of had a hold on him, I guess you could say, quite literally as well. So he was under the influence of the arms, and obviously he's a broken man. After Rosie dies, he's a broken man, and he was a scientist. He had aspirations. He wanted to redefine the fusion technology that he was using to sustain renewable power for the whole world. He tried to revolutionize the world, and yet he fell into grief and despair and into becoming Dr. Octopus, the criminal. And the design is great. I love the arms. The arms are really like creepy, the metallic sort of drums. There's a really, really creepy scene in the hospital where he's asleep and the arms are just sort of like killing all the doctors and stuff. It's really creepy. It's obviously Sam Raimi drawing the Evil Dead aspect of his direction into Spider-Man. It's a scary as shit scene though. This movie should have been 12 just for that scene. Because it's a PG in the UK. Yeah, and I mean, he obviously goes on quite a journey. He sort of sacrifices himself at the very end. He destroys his life's work to save the Earth. He snaps out of the evil mindset. But yeah, no, he's very good. He's very good. He's a tragic villain, really. He's one of the most tragic villains. The only thing I have with the Spider-Man villains is that problem is most of them seem to commit suicide. Or in this trilogy anyway, most of them seem to commit suicide. The Green Goblin in the first movie, he kills himself accidentally with his own glider. Dr. Octopus kills himself by drowning himself with the machine. And in the third movie, Eddie Brock kills himself by jumping into the explosion. So the deaths are all kind of similar, really. It's the one repetitive cliche with this trilogy. But another repetitive cliche of this trilogy is Mary Jane getting kidnapped again. I mean, did they really have to do it? I mean, okay, this time you get away with it. It's the second movie. It makes sense to do that. But doing it for the third one just felt really forced. But I'll talk about that in the next one. But Mary Jane is captured again, and she's screaming again. She needed saving like 4 times in the first film. I mean, it's ridiculous. Come on, guys. Sam Raimi's direction is on point here. He clearly understands the drama of the lore and also the action sequences as well. He makes you care about what's going on. The story is so gripping that I didn't really care about the action. I mean, the action is fantastic. I mean, you've got such sequences like the bank fight, which is one of my favorites, and also the train fight, which is just awesome. That train sequence is like the best action scene in a superhero movie ever. It's like one of my favorite action scenes ever. It's so good. It's so intense. And also when it starts on the clock tower and they just fall on the train, and apparently it's not in the comics, but it's one that they devised, and I'm glad they did it. And you see Peter trying to stop the train, and he's screaming like, yeah! It's so powerful. And then when they all bring him into the train and lower him down, and it's very beautiful. It's a very beautiful film with beautiful moments. And obviously the climax is big and spectacular. The demonstration scene is quite good. And also we have another burning building scene. Only this time it's with Peter, not Spider-Man. He's not in his outfit. He saves a little girl. The one criticism I do have with this is that the parents don't thank him. He just hands the daughter over and they just they let him go off. They don't even thank him. I mean, come on. Surely after all that, you've got to thank the guy. He just saved your daughter. Oh no, okay, moving on. That's my one little nitpick with this film. I think it's paced excellently. For a film that doesn't really rely on action, it's more of a drama. It's a character piece. It's a character study. It really does flow very well. I also like the inclusion of J. Jonah Jameson's son. I mean, in terms of, he's kind of just the plot device. He's there just to be another part of the love triangle, really. As a character, he doesn't do anything. He's just there. But the inclusion of him is obviously necessary because it's, Mary Jane, trying to make a choice about who she should be with. Again, she's after men, but this time I don't think it's so bad. I'll let them deal with that. I can live with it. The music score by Danny Elfman is again fantastic. Some of the same themes as before, but still, the music is epic. It's just so epic, especially for the train scene, like I said, and the bank scene as well. This movie's just spectacular in every sense of the word. Also, the opening titles are nice in this one. You know, the red instead of the blue, and also the fact that the images you see from the first one in the title sequence are like comic book strips, which I thought was really cool. That was nice. It was a nice way to sort of just briefly recap the story so far, because this is like one story, this trilogy. So yeah, it's nice. It has fantastic, the quieter moments are fantastic, and I think the ending is really nice when Mary Jane sort of decides that she wants to be with Peter, and she walks out of her own wedding, bitch, to go and be with Peter. So I mean, you know, that's commitment. It really is. Yeah, I think the performances are fantastic. The action is great. There's nothing really wrong with this movie. I think it's fantastic. It's one of the best superhero movies ever made. I do think though Rosie's death is a bit like, she just stood there and screamed like, ah! Look, come on, you would move out of the way. Like, if I was in shock, I would be desperately trying to move out of the way of the glass. But I guess they kind of played it in slow-mo, essentially, just to get her reaction, I guess. I mean, her death is powerful, obviously, because it affects Otto Octavius later on. And I think the CGI is actually much better. This film won an Oscar. It won an Oscar, sorry, for visual effects. And I can see why. I mean, some of them are starting to look a little dated now, but I mean, for 2004, bloody hell, it's good. It's bloody good. And I just think the film is an incredible ride, and it's an incredible morale tale, and it's also got a nice message about, you know, responsibility. Obviously, not like the first one, but almost like life. It's like a life message, like, don't take on too much. Only take on what you can. Don't try and do everything all at once, because you'll just get stressed. And, you know, cut out the least important bits of your life. You know, try and focus on the most important bits of your life. And it's, you know, yeah, I think that's a really nice message. And also, J.K. Simmons is great again in this movie. He's got a little bit more to do than he had in the first one. So he has this incredible laugh, which I've used in the sketch. It's such a funny laugh. Every time it makes me laugh. And also, towards the end, when Peter screams, I can't keep a straight face. It's because it's so high-pitched and everything. It really makes me chuckle. It really makes me chuckle. And I think it all comes together beautifully. And also the very end, the last scene with Harry, when he sees his father in the mirror, and he says, "Oh, avenge me, son, avenge me." And, you know, he finds the Green Goblin's lair, which is interesting. So obviously, setting up for Spider-Man 3. You know, it's sort of Peter coming out of adolescence. You know, he's becoming a man now, and he's sort of trying to find the most important parts of his life, and yeah, stick to those. And I think it's an incredible story. And there's a funny moment also where the film tries to promote your 5 a day, when Peter flips over his bike, and then there's 2 kids on the street. They go, "How'd you do that?" He's like, "Oh, you know, work out, plenty of rest, you know, eat your green vegetables." And, you know, that's a great little thing there, just to get kids in the audience to, you know, not eat so much crap, which I thought was funny. In the end of the day, guys, I can't really say much else. I think it's a really, really good film. The pacing is great. The story is superb. Some great messages, some lovely emotional scenes, great action. It's near enough perfect. Sam Raimi's direction is amazing. And this is, you know, a lot of people's favourite movie of the Spider-Man series, and I can see why. It's so good. And, you know, there's also there's not a lovely shot, there's a fantastic slow motion shot when there's a car that comes through the cafe, and Peter grabs MJ and they sort of spin around, and you see it in slow motion, and then the glass effects come forward. That was brilliantly done. And it's perfect. It's just over 2 hours. It's a little bit longer than the first, but it doesn't feel like it's any longer. And also there's a lot of comedy here, like some cheesy comedy humor, which is great. Like I said in the first review, it's a homage to the comics, and, you know, this is very much in that same category. Obviously, I think the drama's a bit more grounded in this one, but yeah. I mean, this is my favourite superhero film of all time, so you know what I'm going to do. I'm easily going to rate Spider-Man 2 a 10 out of 10. Yeah. Oh, I love this film so much. So, that's that. We now move to the third and final film of the Sam Raimi trilogy, Spider-Man 3. Review coming very soon. Salute. So, thank you guys all for watching, and as always, I'm Mr. Tarnus11. See ya.